What's up, YouTube? Welcome to today's videos. 你们好，我们今天要讲这个 Oh wait, that's not English, but basically China PoE exists and I wanted to go over it. I did find this nice little Reddit topic from like 2 months ago. Some maniac went onto China PoE and pretty much made a pretty good like summary of all the aspects of PoE. So I kind of made it into a video just to illuminate everyone about what's going on in China, because look at this. Look at that, man. What is that, a busty Zana or something like that? Look at this. Look at all these new MTXs, login rewards every day. I can buy a Razer mouse. I don't even know what this is. That's a Nintendo Switch, I think. And look at all these leagues. They actually rename it, like Guilty, Parasitic. So lots of different things, and maybe you'll even see this thing. This trading platform where you take out stuff. Like, who's paying 40 chaos for a tabula? But I guess they are. So people deposit it in, you take it out. Auction house system, right? So there's a lot of different aspects of it. I did explore the website a little bit, and it's a very similar to Undecember or Torchlight in terms of the pay to win aspects and what they actually offer you. But surprisingly, it's a lot less pay to win than you might think, and we're going to go over why. So as you can see here, this is like a screenshot of the Ascendancies, and I think they really care about the beginner experience. They have a lot better tutorials, supposedly. It shows you what each of the skills does with ball, lightning, and slower projectiles, GMP, and I think spell echo even, and this tells you about the items. So immediately you see that the China version cares more about introducing the beginner to PoE in a more better way than whatever cooked way that GGG currently has for us. Now, you might be wondering, why is there even a China version of PoE that you haven't heard about really or played? And that's because GGG was purchased by Tencent on around like I think 2018 with an agreement to eventually own 100% of the shares by 2024. I think it's like an option for them to buy all the shares. So not really sure how much ownership that Chris will actually have in the company. Now, the China version of PoE has a variety of quality of life, and there are pay-to-win features that aren't found in our current version of the game. Now, for a lot of people asking, how did Tencent buying GGG actually affect the way that PoE is currently designed? Well, GGG assured players that Path of Exile will not become a pay-to-win game via monetization changes. The Chinese version will also not be prioritized ahead of the international version. But sometimes Tencent will request features that they want to try in the Chinese version that Grinding Gear games don't plan to roll into the international version. So over the course of this video, you'll see a lot of additions to the game that Grinding Gear games probably helped out Tencent to do to implement into their version of the game that pretty much has no hope of ever entering the Western version of the game. Now we will see if some of these versions or quality of life changes could actually be implemented and allow us to have a better experience in the West. Now, first off, you have to understand is that the Chinese version of PoE actually has a pay-to-win league. Now, you might be thinking that everyone's going to join this pay-to-win league. So what do you actually get for the pay-to-win league? So the pay-to-win server is like a completely different server than standard league. So you can see, I think this is like SSF. I'm actually not sure if there's even a hardcore variant of this league, right? So what is this? Is this the SSF tag or is that the hardcore tag? Not really sure. But in the pay-to-win server, you get a lot of additional rewards on top of the normal ones for completing quests, depending on the build you pick. So you can pretty much choose the build, and then the pay-to-win server will give you items or gems or currency that will be suited for the build that you're trying to do. So some examples of this are you can get a gold rim in Act 1, and imagine how good that would be for a beginner, especially in the Western version of the game. You get a tabula upon reaching level 40. You get a 5 leak when you get into maps. And the cost of this server is pretty low. I think people said that it was around $3 when discounted at the start of, and then $10 at league start. So as you can see here, this is some of the stuff that you get. I think these are some pay-to-win consumables that you can get, and then it's like a pet thing. And then this is the gold rim that you'll be getting from the quest reward. And then this is the pay-to-win server over here and the regular version of the server. Now, the interesting thing about this, oh wait, they actually say, oh, you get boots of life and move speed. So maybe this is like some life and move speed boots, a gold rim, and I don't know what this is. But you can pretty much see that they showcase that you get a bunch of items if you choose this pay-to-win league. Now, the important distinction is that this pay-to-win league is separate from the regular standard league. So some of the people in the Reddit thread actually said that most people don't opt into this pay-to-win league because this pay-to-win league has a very, very bad economy, as most of the people actually do not join this pay-to-win league. So it's pretty much like you're trying to play on hardcore trade instead of softcore trade, and there's just like really no items for sale. So it's not really pay to win, it's kind of pay to lose in a sense. Now, you can see over and over again, the China version of PoE really emphasizes the beginner experience. They try to correct the mistake that GGG has in the current version of the Western game, in that GGG does not believe in a good new player experience. They believe by trial by fire. They pretty much try to make it as complicated and as confusing as possible for the new player. They don't tell us about how resists work. They don't tell us about anything of that sort. And they pretty much just want you to find out for yourself, whether it's by dying 100 times or getting lost in a bunch of dead ends or trying to make your own build. It's just a complete disaster, right? But as you can see here, in the China version of the game, they kind of guide you to a certain style of build. I'm not really sure what these builds are. My Chinese is actually pretty bad in general. So you can choose from 3 different builds to play from in the regular league, and I think this includes for each class. And then in the pay-to-win league, you can choose from 20 builds that has the corresponding reward packages. Now, the interesting thing about this is, are there actually 20 skills that are viable for playing through the campaign that are all equally strong? So, I don't know if anyone here has played the China version of PoE, but it would be interesting to see what are the type of builds that they actually end up recommending. And here you can see that they actually choose a support gem, and they tell you to choose something that is kind of a good synergy with the skill gem of choice. So I think this is like Fire Trap or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. So there's also extra rewards and account-bound items or something like that. So on top of normal rewards that the quest NPCs can give you, you can also get some currency rewards, and that's kind of nice. So I don't think I included the picture here, but you can see here, the vendor, or the quest person, actually gives you 5 jeweler orbs that you can get transmutation orbs, or you can get alteration orbs or chance orbs or something like that. And that actually helps out a little bit in the beginning. A lot of people kind of neglect on picking it up, or they also neglect on selling unidentified rares for orb of transmutes, or selling identified rares or magic items for orb of alterations. So again, you can see they're trying to improve the new player experience by giving us some of this currency. And some of the items you receive from the quest, like the pay-to-win gold room, supposedly are account-bound. I'm not really sure if this text says that it's account-bound. And next up, we have a really, really big quality of life feature that a lot of people ask about, and this is the death recap. So you can see here, this person got slain. So in addition to the slain message, they also tell you what skill was used to kill you, what monster actually killed you, and if it was a rare monster, what type of mods or arch nemesis mods it actually has. Now, a lot of people might argue that this is not really that useful, as sometimes the thing that kills you is not really the thing that does all the damage. And they're actually probably right. But in the end, this is still much, much better than what we currently have, which is pretty much a blank slate, where it just says that your character died. You have no idea why your character died, and it's kind of a horrible feeling. And this is still better than nothing, right? So I would gladly like to see them implement this into the Western version of the game. Now, next up, we have looting pet and extra inventory space. Now, looting pet is done pretty similar to how Undecember does it, which is the normal pet doesn't really do anything, and then the subscription-based pets can pick up all sorts of currency. People did say in the Reddit thread that the looting pet was kind of slow in picking up the currency, and you had to be around the general vicinity. However, the pet costs around, I think, $15 USD for 90 days, so it's not like a crazy, crazy amount, but it's still like a subscription fee in some sorts, and I don't think the West will like this type of model. I do think that if GGG implements a looting pet, people wouldn't really mind it too much as long as it was free, and the only stuff we could add to the pet are mostly just microtransactions. Now, you can buy extra inventory slots, and I don't really know how many extra inventory slots you can buy, as the picture that the person showed was only this one row of 5 extra items. Now, this does make a pretty big difference, And I think that this aspect is actually pretty pay to win. Having more inventory slots means that you need to take less trips to town. And yeah, that's a pretty big deal, right? So I'm not really sure if you can buy one row of 5 or if you can get an entirely extra inventory slot, so you can pretty much have 2 backpack slots, essentially. Now, there's also an auction house page and a slots that you can buy. So if you want to wonder how does the auction house actually works, well, the auction house is pretty rudimentary. You have to set a filter. So this person right here has set the filter to some crimson jewel, and you can see all of the crimson jewels that pop up. And you can see here, this is Inspire Learning for 2 exalts. And then you can see that there's a bunch of random rare crimson jewels. So I'm not really sure how specific the search is, but they do say that the auction house system is not as good as the current trade site. It's kind of clunky. So it's mainly really good for buying uniques and good for buying currency. And you can choose to bid or buy out. I think if you bid a certain amount, the buyer or the seller can choose to accept your bid, and if they accept your buyout, or if they have a buyout price that you choose, then you'll see that you can put the currency into the auction house, and then they can take out the currency and they would have taken the item. So it does seem like it's a pretty good, well, I wonder if it actually says plus 10 whenever you deposit a chaos into your stash like that, or if it's just like what's it called, an edited GIF. But basically, you can see the auction house has some sorts of functionality, but it's definitely not like the end-all be-all solution. Now, next up, you can see this is another feature that is incredible quality of life. So this is pretty much like importing POP directly into the game. So it's kind of like a loot filter. You can choose a file for your build. You can import it, and then they can show you where the path and what notables you'll travel along, and exactly like what stats you'll get on the character in terms of dex, strength, int, and maybe like percent life. So this is pretty much like path of building built into the skill tree in PoE. And you can also see immediately at the start of the game, they try to introduce you to Ascendancies and what their general playstyle is. So if you choose a witch, this will show up on the skill tree that you can eventually become a necromancer for minions. Well, that's a joke because no one's playing necromancer for minions anymore. Or elementalist or occultist. Now this kind of pigeonholes people into certain builds for Ascendancies, and we all know the nice part about PoE is that there's no real like singular way of playing a build. Like there's a lot of different Ascendancies that can work outside of like saboteurs being god tier for mines and traps. But as we all know, Eye of Winter Mines is actually played on an Inquisitor, right? So again, I think this feature is pretty nice. It does help us use less third-party tools. And for like a beginner, right, third-party tools are a huge problem. Having to download Awaken PoE Trade, Path of Building Community Fork, LutBot, and so many other ones. So I do think that this is a great addition if they do choose to implement some sort of skill tree planner within PoE. Now, this is the part that a lot of people are wondering is how pay to win is PoE. Well, you have the stash tabs that you can buy. You can also buy Atlas Tree Respec points, and you can also buy Passive Tree Respec points and Rebirth tokens. Now, these tokens for Rebirth means that you're allowed to revive yourself and not back at the checkpoint, but I think where you died, and you don't lose any experience, most importantly. So I guess this is probably why a hardcore version of PoE doesn't really exist in China. I'm not really sure if it does, because you can just choose to resurrect yourself. Now, it's $6 for 50, so that's actually pretty cheap. So you could die 50 times and only pay $6. That's not too crazy. And supposedly it's $2.65 for 50 passive tree respec points. So this is pretty much like straight up buying Orb of Regrets. And Atlas Tree respec points are 15 cents per point. Now the important thing is that you can't actually buy anything in the microtransaction shop or pay to win shop that allows you to convert it into in-game currency. So it's not like you're buying Orb of Regrets or Orb of Unmakings for your money. So that's the nice part about the pay-to-win thing, is it does seem to be mostly geared towards respecting your character or making your character not lose XP. And you're also granted a lot of free passive respecs, unlimited amounts up to level 70. So if you're level 70 or below, as it says over here, you have unlimited passive respecs. And I do think that this is something that they should probably add to the game. So once you finish the campaign, you get a free passive tree respec, and I do think that this will help out players a lot and maybe make players have a lot more enjoyable leveling experience. So if you're playing like a bad build that you have to level as because otherwise you have to spend a lot of regrets, it would be nice to level as something stronger and then switch over to the stronger build later on after the campaign without worrying about wasting a billion regrets. Now, overall, there also are some exclusive Chinese MTX, and it's kind of cool looking over here, and some exclusive portraits that you can get from playing short-term events. I do think an important part of the Chinese PoE is that they do have a lot of short-term events that they do constantly run. A lot of people don't really know, but the Gauntlet originally came from, I think, China or Garena PoE, and was eventually copied by Zizarin, and that's where they got the idea from. Now, overall, the pay to win is actually pretty mild compared to other games if you compare it to like Torchlight Infinite or Undecember, where you can't directly buy infinite character power, and you also cannot buy in-game currency infinitely, right? Like, sure, you could probably RMT in the Western version or Eastern version of PoE, but at least through the game developers, there's no way to actually acquire more currency. Now, the loot pet does sound like an amazing quality of life feature. It's kind of annoying picking up all of the small loot on the ground, but the West would not take kindly to the subscription model. I do think that GGG could potentially explore a pet model that's only microtransaction based, like you can customize your pet or something like that. And I don't think that people would get too mad about auto pickup, especially if it's just only for currency. Now, the extra inventory space does sound kind of nice, but do we really need more extra inventory slots after the loot drop? A lot of times I do a fully juiced map, and guess what? This entire inventory slot is not really that full. But I'm actually really curious as to how much this can expand. Not really sure if anyone can enlighten me who's played the Chinese PoE. But you can really see China PoE really emphasizes the new player experience because guess what? The new player spends a lot of money sometimes, right? If you can't get at the new player to play the game, then the new player is not going to spend any money buying the pay-to-win passive tree respecs or the pay-to-win rebirth tokens or stuff like that. So this is why it seems like they've told GGG to develop the China version of PoE to create a better experience for beginners. And I really hope that GGG does take some notes potentially from the China version of PoE, add in the death recap, maybe a pseudo auction house of sorts, or maybe implement PoB into the skill tree in game. There's a lot of different things I think that we could learn from the China PoE. And I really wonder how popular this game is in China. I'm pretty sure it's not that popular, as China loves like League of Legends and Dota and stuff like that. But let me know if you have played the China PoE in the past and if there's any other features that I've missed out on. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, Exalted Orb, Divines, and loot pets than me. And see you next time. Bye.